Today is the future, October 21st, 2015, 4 p.m. if you want to be precise, when they go into the future in Back to the Future Part 2. Movies are just, you know, they're made up. It's just imagination. Like, what do you think it's going to look like in the future? And here we are. It's the actual future day. It's now going to be a past day, which is going to be really weird now looking at the movie from now on. But we just want to talk about all the different things we saw in the movie and what we think of them. And I know this has been done 1,000 times. There's tons of newspaper articles, mostly internet articles, where they've already talked about it. But nobody wanted to wait till the actual day, which is what we did. And I think we should just start off with the clothing style.
Everything's really bright.
Yeah.
I noticed that everything's really bright.
In the 80s, everything was so bright and neon and everything.
Yeah, they definitely did the 80s look. And
yeah, which is funny because they were kind of thinking future, it's probably going to be even crazier. Like we're going to progress from the 80s. We're going to get even wilder and crazy, but instead, the 90s, everything kind of went backwards again. You know what I mean?
Which is why they do stupid things like having the pockets hanging out, which you got going on.
Oh, it's kind of like just, yeah, I don't know what the purpose of the pockets.
It's kind of like the 80s. The 80s had like the ripped jeans, so they're like, oh, in the future people will have their pockets hanging out.
Because I guess they don't have wallets in the future or something. Because yeah, they don't. Because now they have all the touch things where everything's all electronic, which is kind of the way it's going.
Yeah, it's already almost like that. You know?
Yeah, basically. Even getting into their house, there's no keys. They just, you know, put their thumb on it.
And they have that now. They have that with the phones. And I
that
just
is true. Yeah,
I just put it on my iPhone. You can put your credit card information in, and then certain kiosks, when you're at the store, you actually just put your thumb on there. You don't do anything else, and it will charge your credit card right through your phone. And it works.
They predicted that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything's going that way. I mean, we still have car keys, so you walk around with car keys, but a lot of people don't. Now people got like the like the little thing in your pocket, so everything's going to just digital now.
Flying cars. Would you want one? Seriously.
I would.
It's a little dangerous.
It's scary, but
it's basically giving everybody a pilot's license.
I mean,
it would be like getting a driving license, but
talking about that is like its own subject in itself, because then you get into, okay, well, why are we still on gas? Like, why don't we all have like electric cars? Because like, had we gone, because there was such a progression in the country. Like we were going to space, we were going to the moon, and it was like all this progression, and then everything stopped, and then there could be a whole discussion of why, you know, we still are driving around in cars that use fucking gas and oil. Like, it's kind of archaic.
Yeah.
But so we never even got to the point where we're all driving electric cars, even though there are like electric cars out there, but not everybody's using that. So we never even got to that point, let alone getting to flying cars, which we may have been at that point by now, but they didn't put the money into it.
There is a flying car, technically. It's a prototype, and it's not at all like the movie. It's basically like a car plane hybrid of some kind, where like it has wings, I think, and the wings actually have to like go in, but it's not
so it
actually
looks like a DeLorean. It's a car with wings.
Well, it looks like nothing you'd ever imagine, but it's I think flying cars for now is going to be a fantasy that dates back to like Metropolis. If you've seen the film Metropolis, there's flying vehicles and stuff, and like everything, it's just a big sort of like an archetype of science fiction, you know.
For now, but it'll probably exist someday.
It can exist. Yeah, it's not like I said, there is one technically in existence, so it's not fiction anymore. But the fiction part is everybody using it, like everybody flying around like that. You know,
there is the Maglev Train in Japan, so that's an actual magnetic levitating train in Japan.
Oh yeah, that kind of gets
functional, and apparently I believe it's a passenger train, and goes fast. There's no friction.
And actually, in the movie, in Back to the Future 2, doesn't Doc Brown go to the future and get the DeLorean like hover converted?
Yeah.
So it's funny to think like your car that you're driving around now, if you like, people could still get the old cars converted with the, with the hover
and to go
mode.
back to your topic of gas, Mr. Fusion, when he's able to just throw any kind of trash into the thing, and then it just turns it into fuel.
Yeah, that's definitely a cool concept too. And I always was interested in the idea that, okay, so the car ran on fuel and he's throwing like bananas and like cans and all that in there. But that's what the car runs on as far as gas. But what about like the plutonium? Like that's what they needed to power the flux capacitor,
the 1.21
Well, even
gigawatts.
Doc Brown didn't have an accurate prediction. He was like, oh, well, I'm sure by the 80s, plutonium will be common in every drugstore.
Yeah.
You know what? That reminds me of something else I almost forgot about. Was there is a tiny detail that I just noticed for the first time, and that's what's great about these movies. You could keep on watching them, keep noticing more things. There's when they take Jennifer out of the car and they like leave her in that alley, they're in like a back alley of this place called Fusion Industries, where I guess they're converting trash into fuel. And the trash that they have all against the wall, that's all like compacted, is laser discs and CDs. So they're like, oh, by the time we get to 2015, laser discs will be obsolete.
Right.
Which they've been, obsolete for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. Robot gas pumps. So you don't have to have any like gas station attendants. You just pull in and then just...
Well, it's kind of an obsolete concept because we're going electric, so we're not going to have gas pumps.
I probably just made myself sound very New Jersey by saying gas station attendants. I just realized.
Yeah. I think it's already going that way. A lot of people already have the electronic cars that you pull up to, and you power them. And
I guess you plug them in, but it's different than
well, Husky,
it's different than the movie. Yeah.
Husky invented one in 2013, but it hasn't really been used yet. It's just kind of like a prototype kind of thing, and it's expensive if they sell it to gas companies. And the gas companies, they have to, charge us even more money for gas to buy all these, robot gas pumps. So it does exist. Somebody has made one. So let's talk about hoverboards. So, well, first of all, I stole this from a little girl. It used to have a handle on it, but I broke that handle off.
Yeah.
I mean, he takes the girl and he just picks her up right off the hoverboard, and then and nobody remembers that it's supposed to have a handle.
So that's a bootleg hoverboard, right? Because isn't it made by Mattel?
It would have Mattel, but I don't think you could. You can't even buy a fake hoverboard with the Mattel brand on it.
Wait, I want to buy a real hoverboard.
Well, okay, so real hoverboards, they technically exist, and we talked about this before.
I saw a video on YouTube with somebody doing that. Yeah.
There's two that I know of. There's one that was made by a company called Hendo. But it only works over metal for some reason. And, even in the movie, they specify you can't go over water unless you've got power. So, and then Lexus invented another one. And from the videos I've seen, it doesn't look like it hovers much at all. Either one of these, they might hover like an inch off the ground. I don't know. So...
But it's amazing that they got it to hover.
Oh yeah, I think it's cool. But
well, I mean, the difference is though, like the hoverboard in the movie should be able to hover like over anything, really. Whereas the real
water.
Except water, but the real hoverboard in real life, it has to hover like on a magnetic kind of thing, or would you say it's actually metal? So it can't be on any surface. So it's like it exists sort of, but like when are you ever gonna be in an environment where you're gonna have to hover on like metal or a magnet or whatever? So it's like they're working on it, but I don't know.
They would have to make like specialized skate parks for it, I guess. Well, I want to know how you steer on these things.
Yeah,
because you steer on a skateboard because of friction. Like you're kind of balancing back and forth, and the wheels slightly turn.
I mean, the idea of it.
Well, this one they have like
they're magnets.
But how do you turn? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's all.
I guess if you balance to the right and left, maybe the magnets.
It's kind of like how I feel like how a space shuttle would move in space. Anytime there's like a little bit of momentum, it would start like moving. So if there was a way for the thing to float, if Marty kicks his leg off, once he starts moving, the thing could perpetually move forever.
Yeah, but how do you go right and left? We're scientists now.
Because if you tilt on it like a little bit or move your foot on it like that, like the thing will start going in that direction.
All right.
I mean, that's the way I always thought of it. If it was a real thing, which is not, so.
Yeah.
We're building the next hoverboard, so we'll get it right. We'll
coming soon, the Cinemassacre hoverboard. It's going to be the Cinemassacre chainsaw, and you're just like, get your leg cut off.
How about the self-sizing jackets, and then it self-dries?
How
about just build the jacket the right size in the first place?
Who's ever going to have an arm that long?
One size fits all, right? I guess, yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, it is a little long, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. The self-lacing shoes, now that's always been like a big topic, and I feel like I've gotten so many emails about self-lacing shoes every time when something new would happen with that. Because first of all, it's a movie, it's a joke. I never thought of it serious, but I did that It's Bullshit episode where I talk about how shoelaces are bullshit. Right. And then I'm like, what about those self-lacing shoes in Back to the Future 2? And I've heard since then, there were so many different versions of shoes that were made. There's like one that was supposed to be self-lacing that I think somebody did on like a Kickstarter thing. And the shoes had like gears around and everything. It was like somebody actually made it where it worked, but it wasn't, you know, it was like it had all these contraptions around it to make it work.
Like your toe would get stuck in a gear. Like,
I mean, I think it's ridiculous to begin with.
Yeah.
Because like I think you even said that in You Know It's Bullshit video. There's like Velcro shoes. By the future, don't you think they'd come up with something better than laces? Laces are already a pretty old idea.
Like just don't have the laces.
Just don't have laces because I think they would come up with something better
Velcro
than shoelaces.
worked. Like didn't Velcro work in the 80s? Like I thought it worked, but it wasn't popular.
It was too loud. I mean, Velcro was just too loud.
Right.
Too loud. Are you always like hey, everybody got I'm just
you couldn't be in a library in the 80s with Velcro shoes because
but then why are you taking your shoes off?
The librarian would be like,
well, now
you're not going to take them off in a library.
Now it's appropriate though, because
in the 80s we didn't have iPhones.
Nobody goes to the library anymore. You just look it up on Google.
Yeah, it's a shame.
My see-through tie fell off. So.
Oh, your see-through tie. If anybody knew you had a see-through tie. But there's another one that Nike, or was it Nike? I think they released the shoes that actually looked like the shoes in the movie. They don't self-lace. It was a limited supply. It was made to fund Parkinson's research.
Yeah.
And Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd actually was playing Doc Brown in the commercial and everything. And
they've done a lot of those kind of commercials where they brought the characters back and stuff. And
I know this is the actual day, and maybe we'll have an annotation or something up here if something happens. But I've been hearing lately that they're actually releasing a real self-lacing one.
You know what I've been hearing? The vulture from White Zombie.
Yeah, there's some fucking vulture flying around here somewhere, like outside the window. But yeah. So anyway, anything else about self-lacing shoes? Would you want them?
I would like, honestly, if it was really the future, which I guess it's supposed to be right now,
but it's
not. But if it was the future from the Back to the Future movie, I would go into a store and be like, where are the real like 2015 shoes? Because like laces, like really, that's the best we can have is like laces. I guess it's a cool idea though. Like if your shoelaces actually would like tie themselves, that's kind of cool. But do you know what I'm saying? Like it's so.
How about just a shoe that like
it's
fits
cool.
to your foot? Like
it's like for the ultra lazy though. It's like, oh man, I gotta fucking bend over and tie my shoe. I don't have the energy for this shit.
All right, so the Pizza Rehydrator by Black & Decker.
I thought it was cool just to see the pizza like this big.
Yeah.
This big, and then they put it in the machine for like 2 seconds, and it's this big.
I mean that one reminds me of something out of Star Trek. It's like kind of like the replicator, but I guess the one in Back to the Future is a little different because it's like you actually have the thing and it hydrates it.
Like in Star Trek, there's like nothing there, but then there's something.
It materializes,
so it's like,
yeah. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I don't think it could work because rehydration is just adding water.
Yeah, you can't add water to like a steak.
Yeah. Like
I think I read somewhere that they technically think they know how to do it, but it wouldn't taste good. Actually,
yeah.
Like they can't figure out how to. So right now, as far as I know, it's fiction.
Maybe the pizza that they cook in the movie tastes like shit.
Yeah,
maybe it did. Maybe they're just used
probably
to
only work with they're just used to eating shit. I don't know. In the future.
Now this one, how well did they predict this? The video call with Needles.
Oh yeah.
Needles, who's played by the bass player. Needles is played by the bass player from Red Hot Chili Peppers, Fleet. But Skype, Google Chat.
I mean, again, not to go to other like franchises, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
also
was like 1987. Ninja Turtles came out. That was about the same year.
Was the Turtlecoms in the first episode? I forget.
I think they're
when did they?
They're around that time.
Somewhere, yeah. I mean, they're both close by. Back to the Future 2 was 89.
And also, again, Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean, they all had kind of
all science fiction seems to do that.
I'm sure Star Wars probably does it somewhere in there.
2001, Space Odyssey.
Right.
It's like that was 1969, 68 or 69.
Yeah. I think there's probably a ton of examples of science fiction movies that probably did it before Back to the Future.
Yeah. But how real is it now? It's like as real as it could possibly be.
Like I could do it right now. Like
So I mean, you're not usually doing it up on your TV, and it has like the person's like.
But you can.
You totally can.
You totally could. Yeah. People don't seem to do it.
TVs are actually like I think they're enabled with it automatically now.
Yeah.
How about
Skype and stuff?
How about just the fact that the TVs are rectangle in it? That now every TV is rectangle shape.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
they're
that's
flat,
pretty cool.
mounted on the walls. Like people
And they're
would have
rectangle
that.
back then, right? But they're more
that 89,
closer to a square.
Well, 89, it was all square.
It was like
TVs.
4/3 back then. Now it's more 16.
4:3, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know anybody who had
yeah.
a flat rectangle TV in 89? I didn't.
I don't think they even really
yeah.
had that. Then.
I don't think it existed yet. No.
Yeah.
If it did exist,
That's why people
I
went to
didn't
the
know
theater.
anybody.
That's one of the reasons, because you could get
Exactly.
like a more, you know,
But TV shows
widescreen
weren't
experience.
in widescreen. It was
Yeah,
you go
yeah.
to the that was the reason theaters started doing widescreen to compete with television.
They used to
But now
promote. They used to
television's-
promote movies like it's in widescreen.
Yeah.
Now it's like everything's in widescreen.
Cinerama,
You know,
Panavision.
This
you know,
video
like-
you're watching is in widescreen.
That blew my mind when we started doing that. I was one of the last people to do it on the internet. But I'm like, it's internet. It's internet video. Why are we going wide now? Okay, fine. Fuck it. I'll do wide. And it helps to have three guys sitting next to each other. It does help. So they definitely predicted that one. Oh, the fax machine. How about that? That was they actually have the the fax machine for you're fired. They have the fax machine in the closet and
That was one I feel like they were kind of off with that one, because fax machines have been like out of date for a long time.
Yeah. So that's one of the funny ones that they have so many great predictions, features, things. Like I said, it is a movie and it's make believe, but that's funny to think. How about,
I think we should say a lot of the stuff that they did in the movie, some of the ridiculous futuristic things, were done for comedic effect.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
yeah,
you know, we
it's
should
a
throw
comedy
that out
film.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. How about watching 6 channels at once and all that? Which you can do. It's
Right.
It's possible to do that. I've heard there's cable vision.
I feel like it would be
QuickView,
hard to focus
and,
on that many things at once.
That's what I think. Like you can do it, but does anybody do it? No.
Yeah.
Like how would you watch 6 things at the same time and actually be able to like?
I actually used to set up, because I had like the old systems and the new systems. I have it totally different these days, but with video games, I used to have one TV sitting over here for the new games and one TV sitting over here for the old games. And I was always like, oh, that'll work perfectly. But it ended up to be, I would just be playing one or the other. So that makes me think, if you ever set up like a bunch of different TV things, it's like you can't watch a movie over here and watch a movie over here and watch a movie over here. That's why in the movie when he's doing that, it's insane. He's got all these different channels going. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there on the TV and he's like just vegging out, and then his dad Marty comes in and is
Watching
like,
little TV.
yeah, and he's like he's just sitting there watching. He's like rotting his brain on like 6 things, and I think that's really true because we really are rotting our brains on so many things. It's like you're so desensitized, you're just numb to all the stimulation you have. You know?
What's the comment he makes? He's like, "Oh, watching a little TV, good."
Yeah,
It's like,
oh, you watch a little TV.
it seems like that's what he does all the time. Though, is he
Exactly,
watches TV. So.
Yeah, he's just busting his balls basically. Now, this one's actually true. Now, the video glasses where they're at the dinner table and they have those glasses on, and on the glasses they're looking at things and they're making phone calls on the glasses. And isn't that pretty much Google Glasses now?
Pretty much, yeah. I think, yeah. I don't know. Is Google Glasses out yet? I know it's at least in a prototype.
I'm not sure that it's out, but there's
phase.
also like all these virtual reality headsets that have been becoming popular.
I mean, they're this close. I mean, it's
mean,
basically just taking an iPhone or something and making it see-through and then attaching it to glasses. I mean, that's essentially what,
You're asking like.
But then it also has what's really cool about that technology is the I think they call it augmented reality. So like you could like look at a store, like let's say you're looking at Target or Walmart or whatever, and like with a press of a button or something, it will tell you like the address, or it gives you information.
You don't have to go to the actual store. It's like you're in the store virtual.
No, what I'm saying is like
if you're there, it has some kind of like GPS data or something.
Yeah,
that
it's like it's feeding you information as you're in reality.
Yeah.
You're walking on the street, but then
it's just telling you this is where you are. That's what
it's feeding you information as you're walking down the street. So if you're walking down some square and there's all these stores, it might say hat store to your right. You know. Scarf store. In case you want to go to a scarf store.
No, I don't know much about. You're asking
Which we already kind of got that on our phone. Like if you get
yeah.
And we were like the last people to get like smartphones. So well, he was the last person to get smartphone. I was the second to last maybe. But no. So then they also have the TV screens on the window shades for scenery. It's like I think that they specify is actually for just scenery for the window.
Yeah.
Sony and Samsung actually invented these flexible screens so they can bend and everything. But it's small. It's not like a big thing you could put on a window. So it's not the technology to do it exists, but it's not actually like a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Jaws 19 in Holomax. Wait, is it? I don't know if it's in Holomax or the Holomax is the name of the theater. Like see Jaws 19 at the Holomax, but I'm gonna go with Holomax is the format of the new 3D. But this 3D is hologram, so it's like it actually comes out.
So yeah, the joke in the movie is that they're up to Jaws 19 now. In real life, the Jaws franchise has kind of died off. I think 4 was the last one that they actually did. But I think the joke is still relevant because now you have still Star Trek movies coming out. You have like Rocky movies still coming out, sort of, with Creed, and you have Rambo movies still coming out. We just saw Terminator 5. So there's a lot of franchises that actually did make it to 2015, but not Jaws.
I have to say the joke is so good that it took me this long to really understand the full effect of the joke, because it is true. But at that time, in '89, in the theater, just to take you back to the past then, when I was sitting there in the theater watching, Jaws 19 comes up, I was just like, oh yeah, Jaws 19. Because at that time, it still seemed like, you know, they were still making Jaws movies, so it was like oh yeah,
they'll get to that.
They'll get to 19 by 2015, of course, you know? So I actually just took it serious.
Because it's just so ridiculous, just the idea of like these franchises just go on forever. Star Wars is another one. They're still making Star Wars movies, you know? And
I love that they choose an arbitrary number, just 19, you know?
Yeah.
just to make it a little more convincing. I think it's great. It's one of my favorite jokes on there. And then, of course, he goes, oh, the shark still looks fake, which is probably just a joke for... There's probably a joke for Spielberg that they just, you know, threw in there, you know? So voice activation, it's everywhere in the movie. So Siri on the phone, you know, it's like, it's pretty much already a reality. There's so many voice
fairly new. I mean, I'm sure they've been working on it for years, you know, with patents and all that kind of stuff. It's fairly new for the consumer, but it's getting better. Like I'll like say, text my wife and just say what I want to say, and it, you know, 90% of the time it gets it right. It's pretty cool.
Does the Intellivision voice synthesis module count?
Well,
no.
Well, now I'm trying to remember what that even did. The Intellivision IntelliVoice voice synthesis module, that one? Oh.
Yeah.
The IntelliVoice voice synthesis module. What the fuck is that? Well, it makes your games talk.
Well, I think that one just enables the console to speak in certain games. Like 4 different games used it or something.
Okay.
But now that I have to go back to my video. That was like 2007 or 8.
So we're talking about something that actually, if I say open, a door will open. Something that actually activates something.
Yeah, things like that. Yeah, like when he's talking to the TV.
They
like,
say lights on, yeah.
Well,
lights
even
on.
In the 80s, they had the clapper.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you know, and
that's sound activation, so similar.
Not voice.
Yeah.
But they're both sound, so it's similar.
Yeah. Hands-free video games. They don't actually show it in here, but we know that because they're playing Wild Gunman, and it's in the 80s cafe, and that's another thing we'll mention that. But they're playing Wild Gunman, and Elijah Wood and the other kid there is saying like, oh, you got to use your hands. That's like a baby's toy.
Isn't that funny? That's
I didn't understand that joke back. Well, I mean, I understood the joke, but I couldn't imagine like what
else would you use?
What would you use? How do you play the video game without using your hands? Like,
and
maybe
now,
use your feet?
That very much exists. I mean, we've done videos where, you know, using the Xbox Kinect and the Wii and all that.
Yeah.
So,
but what actually constitutes not using your hands? Because like even the U-Force, your hands off, but you're still using your hands. The Kinect, Xbox Kinect, you are using your hands. You know, like you're using them. You're just not touching anything with them.
I mean, well, Atari was trying to do the Mind Link, which was like they put that on your head. And it was like
that's true,
going directly into your mind.
And that was just a prototype.
It was a prototype and never came to pass. But
so that would be true. Hands off.
Yeah,
it would have been if it had worked.
Get that going.
I always thought it was funny. Like had Atari got like released that, you would have put it on your head, and if you would have been playing Kaboom, you would have just been going like this the whole time. You snap your neck or like break out.
Can you imagine? You're just playing a video game here.
Hey, what are you doing in there, Billy?
Okay, now how about this? Would you trust your dog with a robot, a robot walking a dog?
Well, Rocky does it in Rocky 3 with this kid.
Well,
a robot?
First of all, the robots in Rocky 4, get it right. Why does Rocky have a robot? I have no idea. But
well, Rocky didn't have the robot. It was a gift for...
It was a gift for Paulie. But where did he get it? He went to the robot store to get like,
That's what Paulie's wasting the money on.
That's way off topic. But if you had a thing to walk your dog, and that would be convenient. Like, let's say you're really busy, you don't have time to walk the dog, but you send it off with this robot. Would you trust that? Because it's your dog.
You need to trust the Android technology in the future.
It's so advanced
that you don't have to worry about it. Everybody's doing it.
How does the dog just not pull the robot though? Where he wants to go? The robot's just floating there. You think? Yeah. It looks like it's about 2 pounds. Like the dog could just pull it. It's like
if the dog ever tries to do that, it gets an electrical shock.
Well, how is it hovering how is it hovering off the ground? First of all, like
hover technology.
Yeah, the hover technology. But so if you can accept that, then you should be able to. I mean, the dog itself. Actually, it's funny that somebody said this to me once. Actually, was that if you go to if you were an alien and you came to Earth and you saw anybody walking a dog, doesn't it look like the dog's the leader? The dog's in the front. Right. You would think the dog's walking the person.
Yeah, I heard that joke. I'm trying to remember where I heard that from. But yeah,
well, it was my cinematographer. He told me.
Okay.
On the Nerd Movie.
If the dog takes a shit, does the robot vaporize the turd?
That would be convenient.
It would be.
How about predicting the weather really quick? We have weather apps. And
what part of the movie was that?
Oh, it's like as soon as they get to 2015 and the doc's looking at it, is like watching, it's like, and the rain stops, and then it just stops.
Yeah.
So it's
Does he know it's going to stop because he's just been going back and forth to the future? And
you might be right.
Yeah, I guess that's what I kind of thought.
I think I always thought that too.
You might be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It did stop rather abrupt though, so it makes me feel like it has something to do.
Or also, what about the fact that he's the doc and like maybe he like has a way to predict the. If he built
a time machine.
Machine, so I bet he can
what else
predict the weather.
Can this guy do? Yeah. Predict the weather.
So the 80s cafe, which is a good one, because how true is it where now the 80s, I mean, that was such a joke when you're in 89 and you're watching that movie, and you're like, oh yeah, in the future they're going to be thinking about the 80s. Like what was there even to remember? Like it just felt, the 80s felt like the present so much. It didn't feel like, what are you going to remember from this? It's not like we have things you'd actually know, and then years and years later you say like, oh, that's so 80s, and then you look back and you're like, yeah, actually that was true.
Absolutely. I think every sort of, or most decades sort of have all the things that stand out. The 80s was a big one with Rubik's Cube and Pac-Man and all the things that you think of. So that totally is a very valid joke that they have in the movie.
And people are nostalgic for the 80s, and there are like 80s
I am,
things,
so
yeah, as much as they are for the 70s, the 50s. 50s was a great one.
Oh,
absolutely.
None of us have been there, but
who gives a shit about the 60s? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
I'm just joking.
No, the 60s.
We just left it out, so yeah.
Bond and Batman.
And the Beatles.
Yeah.
And the three Bs.
Yeah, the Beatles. They're one of my favorites. So yeah.
One thing that just started to bug me about it, I never thought of this before, but it takes place in October, right? So it's October 21st. And for one thing, that's another video we got to do in October. That's one thing about it. But also, don't you think by that point everybody would have their Halloween decorations out? Or there'd be at least one Halloween decoration in the movie somewhere?
Maybe it was almost like, if you're from the filmmaker's perspective, just trying to think of maybe what they were thinking, is that it might be too much because you're already
it would have been.
You're already going to the future. Now there's going to be Halloween shit everywhere, so it would have been kind of weird.
And I think that's the reason. But why did they make it take place in October?
So they could have just chosen a different month.
Wouldn't have been simpler
if they did September or something.
Yeah, make it September or November. At like just the fact they picked October but didn't acknowledge Halloween anywhere in it. It almost makes me think like, oh, maybe in the future nobody celebrates Halloween, or they, but if they did, and I know it would have been too much, could you imagine like holographic Halloween decorations and stuff? Wouldn't that have been awesome?
That would have been a cool scene, yeah.
Yeah. So where's the Halloween?
Come on, Robert Zemeckis, what do you know?
But Hill Valley's got to get their Halloween act together, The phone booths. There's actually phone booths in the movie in the future. So right now, there's no phone booths. I haven't seen one in years, and they don't have phones on them. They actually look like something flat, where like maybe you you just put your finger on it or something. That you never get to see how it works. But
Are you sure that they're phone booths and they're not using them for something else?
It says AT&T phone booth on it.
Okay.
But the thing is...
That's convincing.
Yeah. But the thing is, phone booths are now obsolete, and I understand that because people aren't using them as much, they can't afford to keep the phone lines up and everything, and they're just not running anymore. But it's such a, just because you have a phone doesn't mean that you're never going to run into an emergency. Like nobody's ever going to, either steal your phone or you drop the phone in a puddle or the battery runs out. Like there's 1,000 things that could happen to your phone, and
contact your local politicians and let's get phone booths back on the streets.
Yeah, because you don't have it. And the thing is, in the movie, it shows that technology advanced, so they adapted phone booths to make them more like futuristic. Right. So can't they just come out with a new way to do phone booths?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there has to be a way to keep it going. But
instead, like what would the phone booth of the future be?
But instead, it's just like, oh, there's a new technology, so let's just make this other one obsolete because nobody needs that anymore.
Right. Well, I'm sure once some company finds a way to make money off of doing that, we're going to see them all over the place.
Yeah. Something I know nothing about sports, but there is something involving sports in this besides the sports almanac. But there is the scene that actually inspires Marty is the basically and Bootsy told me this and he explained it, and I don't think I'll be able to repeat it and actually sound like I know what I'm talking about. But basically, there was a sports team that hasn't won anything in over 100 years, and in the
it's like the Red Sox or something. Yeah, I forget what it is.
I don't think it is, but
it's not.
But it's something. It's some team. All right.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they win.
Cubs.
So
one of the teams.
Yeah, that's it. I think.
One of them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it the Cubs?
We're against them. We all don't know anything about sports. Do you follow sports?
We're digging ourselves a hole by talking about sports here.
It's the Florida Gators.
No, that's something else. Wait, here's the thing.
Tennis. That's the one with the oblong brown ball.
I don't know. So the ball goes in the thing.
But the point is, the team, and I could have said this in like a few seconds, but we're making ourselves like into fools now. But the team that wasn't winning is now actually like about to win or might win, and it's 2015, so it actually is like predicting it. And also the other team in it was a team that didn't exist at the time, but since then existed. So it actually predicted the existence of one team, and then that the other team is actually maybe going to win. So it's just some coincidental sports stuff going on there.
Okay.
So I did my best. There you go. Now, you mentioned something about a camera in it, like that when Doc has the.
Yeah, Doc Brown has a little rectangular flat camera. Mm-hmm. It doesn't imply that it's a phone. It just is a camera. But when he holds it up and he takes pictures of Marty's future son, there's like a little square that follows Marty's head. And they have that in like modern DSLRs and even like the iPhone and all these other phones. Like there'll be a focus point and it'll actually follow like the facial recognition and stuff. So that came true.
Yeah.
And it's something that's, they're making better and better. Yeah.
And also we got to start saying scrote, because that's one of the slang terms in the movie. You got no scrote?
Like scrotum guns. Dustless paper.
That's right. Hey. See that right there? That's before they invented the dustless,
the dust
paper
cover.
Yeah, that's a dust cover, That's where you hide your ooh la la right
what
there.
What about what's a good point in the movie? The fact that they were selling something old out on the streets, because when Marty walks by and I think he sees this in the window. You know what else is in the window?
Well, Jaws.
The Jaws NES game, which is funny though because it's like 20 years later, so that's like a vintage item at that point.
And we're still talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other movie in our lifetime that has a future date that would be this big,
I can think of plenty of star dates, but we'll be dead.
Exactly. Like stuff like that, and like 2001 passed, and even Judgment Day from Terminator 2, that was in the 90s. I remember when that happened. It was 97.
Oh, actually, I remember a big one was, I think, 1992 or 1994 was when the thing with Khan was supposed to happen.
Oh, really?
But that passed like way a long time ago. It's like, obviously, we didn't get anywhere near that.
Yeah. So if anybody can think of any other movies that are even close to being as big as Back to the Future, and if there's any other future dates coming near in our lifetime,
let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Enjoy the future.